In this podcast episode, David Epstein, investigative journalist and best-selling author, explores how unlimited choices and infinite options can paradoxically lead to dissatisfaction and decreased creativity. Drawing from his latest book, Inside the Box: How Constraints Make Us Better, Epstein discusses the psychology of decision-making, the power of constraints, and how embracing limitations can enhance focus, creativity, and productivity. Topics range from satisficing versus maximizing, the pitfalls of endless options in relationships and entrepreneurship, to the importance of resilience and forgiveness in personal growth. David Epstein begins by addressing a fundamental human limitation. Our brains are not wired to process limitless access to choices. Infinite scrolling and abundant entertainment options actually increase boredom rather than alleviate it. Psychological studies show that offering people fewer, focused options results in greater satisfaction than overwhelming them with dozens. This is because an abundance of choices often leads people to take the path of least resistance, choosing what is convenient or familiar instead of exploring creatively. Epstein warns that too many options promote maximizing, where individuals try to pick the absolute best choice, but this often results in less happiness, greater regret, and indecision. Epstein introduces the concept of satisficing, coined by Herbert Simon, which encourages setting clear criteria for what is good enough and stopping the search once those criteria are met. This contrasts with maximizing, the often unhealthy urge to evaluate every possibility to find the perfect option. Satisficing reduces choice overload and stress, allowing people to focus and be more content with their decisions. Epstein illustrates how satisficing rules can be applied broadly, such as when purchasing on Amazon. Define 3 must-have criteria and choose the first option that meets them without overanalyzing. For those with many passions or talents, Epstein acknowledges that having a broad range can sometimes hinder success. The famous tech company General Magic, profiled in his book, was overwhelmed by too many ideas and resources, failing to focus on coherent goals and ultimately collapsing. Epstein points out that constraints and limitations can act as essential boundaries, forcing focus and creative breakthroughs, whereas total freedom often leads to scattered effort and failure. This challenge has only intensified in the AI era, where starting ventures is easier, but finishing them remains difficult. Epstein challenges the popular notion that 10,000 hours of deliberate practice guarantees greatness. While this holds true in narrowly defined fields like chess, it does not generalize well to complex, unpredictable environments, what psychologists call wicked learning environments. In these domains, adaptability, broad skills, and lifelong learning matter more than pure specialization. Epstein advocates for cultivating range over early specialization, a theme linked to his earlier book, Range. He emphasizes that success today often depends on the ability to pivot and reinvent oneself, rather than accumulate rote practice in a single narrow skill. Drawing on both scientific research and vivid anecdotes, Epstein explains that creativity flourishes not in unlimited freedom, but within well-defined constraints. Using examples from children playing with limited objects or jazz musicians improvising within strict musical frameworks, he shows how boundaries foster innovation. He stresses that our brains prefer minimal effort and tend to avoid thinking when possible, so constraints disrupt easy, habitual solutions and force new creative approaches. Epstein references the Harvard study of adult development to highlight the importance of grounding children with real responsibilities like chores. These obligations foster a sense of belonging and mutual obligation, building dense social networks crucial for lifelong well-being. In contrast, growing up immersed in online environments filled with ephemeral interactions and bots can isolate and limit relational development. Epstein underscores the need to balance freedom with meaningful constraints in raising resilient, creative children. The conversation turns to adult productivity, focusing on structuring attention through batching work, doing one type of task at a time, to reduce costly cognitive switching. Epstein recommends making all commitments visible to conduct regular subtraction audits, identifying what can be dropped to avoid overcommitment. This practice combats the common subtractive neglect bias, where people habitually add tasks but rarely remove them, leading to overwhelmed schedules and diminished focus. Epstein shares advice from Tony Fadell, designer of the iPod, who advocates for writing a press release before starting a project. This exercise forces clear definition of goals and boundaries, acting as a blueprint to prevent scope creep and maintain focus. Epstein himself adopted this method for his latest book, allowing him to write more economically and avoid burnout by knowing exactly what to include and what to exclude. Regarding personal decisions like relationships, Epstein explains the modern phenomenon of sliding, gradually escalating commitment while keeping options open, often facilitated by endless swiping on dating apps. This contrasts with decisive commitment, which leads to better relationship outcomes and satisfaction. The temptation to keep doors open can cause prolonged uncertainty and dissatisfaction, highlighting again the benefit of constraints and clear choices. The episode debunks common misconceptions about freedom and choice. Despite the intuitive appeal, more freedom and options don't reliably increase happiness. Epstein points out that people often overestimate their desire for involvement in difficult decisions, such as medical treatments, while paradoxically, irreversible decisions often yield greater satisfaction by reducing regret. When people feel limited by external constraints, Epstein suggests that they may actually be yearning for more agency, the ability to experiment and problem solve within their circumstances. In deeper philosophical territory, Epstein talks about integrating forgiveness as an important narrative value in life stories. Inspired by the story of an Olympian concentration camp survivor who embraced forgiveness, Epstein reveals his personal growth from holding grudges to consciously adopting forgiveness as a guiding principle. He discusses how resentment may fuel short-term motivation, but long-term peace requires moving on, setting boundaries, and understanding others' limitations without carrying bitterness. Resilience emerges as a key trait shared by all high achievers. Epstein underscores that setbacks and failures are inevitable, and the capacity to recover, fueled by love and passion for the process itself, distinguishes longevity and success. He shares his own experience overcoming a severe arm injury in youth and recent struggles with migraines, both challenges that forced beneficial lifestyle changes and growth. Epstein highlights the scientifically proven harms of multitasking and constant distractions. Frequent task switching not only lowers productivity, but increases stress and may impair immune function. The brain craves distraction, but benefits most when attention is deliberately structured and focused. Removing phones from visibility during demanding tasks significantly improves cognitive performance. Countering stereotypes about young founders, Epstein cites research showing that the average age of founders of fast-growing startups is around 4-5. Experience, relationships, and clearer problem identification often give older entrepreneurs an edge. While youth can offer higher risk tolerance, mature founders leverage accumulated knowledge and targeted focus to solve meaningful problems, often pain points rather than nice-to-haves. Epstein discusses applying constraints to fast-track projects, such as books, by narrowing scope, reusing research, and involving audiences early through multimedia documentation. He contemplates compressing his own writing process significantly, leveraging clear priorities and resourcefulness, illustrating how self-imposed constraints can push productivity and creativity to new heights. Epstein defines greatness as the ability to raise the level of others who encounter your work or presence. This influence can ripple beyond personal achievements to elevate entire fields or communities, a sentiment that resonates with the ethos of collaboration and shared progress.